The sun had just dipped below the horizon on Earth, casting a warm glow across the planet's landscapes. It was a time of peace. Humans had made great strides in exploration and had even begun settling on distant worlds. In the quiet halls of a research facility stationed on an alien planet, a family of scientists worked side by side with a species far more advanced than humans could ever have imagined. The facility, nestled within a vast alien city, had been an epicenter of cooperation. Humans had learned to communicate with these aliens, and in turn, the aliens shared their cutting-edge technology. The families of the research team were content, enjoying their work and learning from the aliens. Everything seemed perfect. The facility was equipped with the latest technology, from AI systems to cloaking devices, to robotic assistants that helped with everything, from research to day-to-day activities. Among them was a young boy, only 12 years old. His name was Thomas, and his parents were part of the human research team. He was a curious child, always asking questions about the alien technology and eagerly listening to the tales the aliens told about their ancient civilizations. Life on the alien world was like nothing Earth had ever seen. Humans had truly begun to feel that they had a place in the greater galaxy. But as peaceful as everything appeared, the very fabric of their tranquility was about to be torn apart. Without any warning, chaos erupted. An alien faction, one that had been lurking in the shadows, suddenly descended on the research facility. No one saw it coming. The aliens, long thought to be friendly allies, attacked without provocation, their motives shrouded in mystery. Their ships descended from the sky like shadowy predators. They were far more advanced than the humans had anticipated, their weapons capable of devastating the defenses of the facility within minutes. The attack was swift, brutal, and merciless. The peaceful world that had once seemed so safe became a nightmare. Within moments, the human staff scrambled to evacuate, but in the confusion, they were outmatched. The researchers and their families had no chance to defend themselves against the merciless assault. In the midst of the chaos, as alarms blared and people screamed in panic, the unthinkable happened. Thomas, the innocent child, was taken. The alien soldiers had surrounded the family's quarters. With terrifying precision, they moved like a well-oiled machine, abducting the child with the cold efficiency of experienced predators. Thomas' parents tried to intervene, but they were quickly subdued by the overwhelming force of the alien faction. His mother's desperate cries echoed as the soldiers dragged him away, and then silence. The aliens were swift. They vanished into the night with Thomas, leaving behind the wreckage of the facility and the haunting silence of those who had witnessed the horror. As Thomas was dragged into their grasp, his small body trembling, he barely had time to understand what was happening. The cold, metallic walls of the alien ship closed around him, and the blaring sounds of the facility's alarms slowly faded away. He was now in the hands of those who had taken everything from him. The aliens had no mercy. The cold, the motionless hands of the abductors carried him to an underground base hidden deep within the alien planet. There, he was thrown into a dark, damp chamber, his new prison. The walls were smooth and featureless, a stark contrast to the warm, welcoming environment he had once known. The air smelled strange, and the sounds of the alien base echoed all around him. His heart pounded in his chest, his mind racing with fear and confusion. What did they want from him? Why had they taken him? The answer came swiftly. The aliens had not taken him out of some twisted desire to punish him. They needed him for something far more sinister. The faction that had attacked Earth was not interested in simple power struggles. They sought something far darker. They wanted to extract information about Earth's military capabilities, information that would give them an advantage in the ongoing conflict with humanity. And for that, they were willing to go to extreme lengths. The tortures began. Thomas was strapped to a cold metallic table, his limbs immobilized by the alien devices. The aliens' cruel technology worked with terrifying efficiency, extracting data from his mind. Data that he didn't even have. The process was painful and invasive, designed to break the spirit of even the strongest individuals. Thomas, still a child, could barely comprehend the horror unfolding before him. Every time he screamed, the aliens only grew more determined, as if his pain was an afterthought. The child's screams were unbearable. For hours, the torture continued, a constant barrage of pain and mental invasion. Every attempt Thomas made to fight back or cry for help was met with a cold, mechanical response from his captors. They were relentless, extracting every bit of information they could, even though they knew the boy didn't possess it. It was a method of destruction, a way to break him completely. Back on Earth, no one knew. The research team that had once worked side by side with the aliens had no idea what had happened to Thomas. The facility had gone silent after the attack, and the last transmission the humans had received was filled with static. But then, unexpectedly, a chilling broadcast blared across all communication channels. It was a direct feed from the underground base where Thomas was being held, transmitted without any form of encryption, as though the aliens wanted everyone to hear. And then the world froze. Thomas' voice, weak and filled with agony, echoed through the airwaves. "Please, help me. They're going to kill me." The broadcast was clear, every word drenched in pain, fear, and desperation. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The entire human race heard the words of the tortured child, and in that instant, every person on Earth understood what was at stake. The scream pierced through the hearts of every human being. Parents clutched their children, and every eye turned to the screen in horror. They could hear his pain. They could feel the terror that gripped him as the aliens continued their cruel work. The weight of the situation was suffocating. But the most chilling part of all came next. As the broadcast continued, the child's voice cracked. His final message was heart-wrenching. "They're going to kill me. Please, help." The words were raw, filled with fear that no child should ever have to experience. The entire world sat in stunned silence. The message ended abruptly, and the transmission went dark. For a moment, no one knew what to say. People were frozen, paralyzed by the unimaginable horror that had just unfolded. They had heard the child's voice, so innocent, so full of life, now reduced to a plea for mercy. It was a call for help, a cry that would not go unanswered. The tension that had been slowly building up was now palpable. The aliens had made a fatal mistake. They had taken the child from Earth, and in doing so, they had ignited something far greater than they could have imagined. Humanity, once peaceful and unaware of their own power, now had no choice but to act. The child's final words had sealed his fate, and the fate of the aliens who had dared to harm him. The stakes had escalated, and Earth was no longer a silent observer. The countdown to war had begun. The message from Thomas had sent shockwaves through Earth. Every corner of the globe, every home, every government building, all were flooded with the haunting sound of the child's final words. It was impossible to ignore. The innocent voice, pleading for help, was a direct call to action. Humanity could no longer sit idly by. For the first time in history, Earth faced a challenge that could not be solved with diplomacy, with words, or with peaceful negotiations. The very fabric of their peaceful existence had been torn apart. The world was in chaos. Leaders who had always prided themselves on keeping the peace now found themselves in the middle of a nightmare. An emergency meeting was called, and the air was thick with tension. The United Nations convened, but it wasn't just world leaders who gathered. Military commanders, intelligence officers, and scientists, all were present, their faces grim as they watched the broadcast of Thomas' torment. The message was clear. Earth was under attack. "Why are we just sitting here?" shouted the military commanders, their voices trembling with fury. "We can't let this go unanswered. This is war." But there were others, the diplomats, who still believed that peaceful resolutions could be found. "We must consider all our options," one diplomat urged. "We must not escalate this conflict. Violence will only bring more suffering." The room erupted into an argument, with voices clashing and accusations flying. But no one could deny the truth. The aliens had made a grave mistake by taking the child. They had underestimated humanity's resilience, and now, the world was on the brink of something much darker. Outside, the streets of major cities were filled with anxious citizens. The news had spread like wildfire, and everywhere people were glued to their screens, waiting for a response from their leaders. But as the hours passed and the meeting continued, it became clear that a decision had to be made. The peaceful policies that Earth had once followed no longer seemed to matter. There was no room for diplomacy anymore, only action. As the global leaders continued to argue, the tension in the air grew thick. People feared what might happen next. Were they going to just stand by and let the aliens continue their attacks, or were they finally going to fight back? After what felt like an eternity, the decision came. Earth's military high command, after hours of deliberation, finally made the call. The defense protocols that had been in place for decades were activated. It was time to reveal humanity's most secret weapon, the one that had been hidden for so long, unknown to all but a select few. Project Revenant. This top-secret program had been developed during the early days of Earth's space exploration. It was a program that combined the most advanced technologies ever created: cloaking devices, robotic warriors, and AI-controlled warships that could strike from the shadows, unseen and unstoppable. For years, Earth's military had quietly worked on perfecting these technologies, knowing that someday humanity might face an enemy they could not reason with. And now, that day had come. The activation of Project Revenant marked the beginning of Earth's response. Humanity was no longer just a peaceful species among the stars. They were a force to be reckoned with. The first step was to deploy Earth's most powerful warship, a vessel like no other, equipped with a cloaking device that could make it invisible to any sensor or radar. It was a silent predator, moving through space unseen by the alien forces. This warship, unlike anything the aliens had ever encountered, was Earth's first sign that the humans were ready to fight back. The ship's engines hummed as they powered up, and the crew aboard knew that they were about to embark on a mission that would change the course of history. The captain, a seasoned military officer who had been chosen for this mission due to his tactical brilliance, stood at the helm. His eyes were fixed on the monitors in front of him, his hands steady on the controls. "Prepare for cloaking," he commanded, his voice cold but resolute. He knew that there was no turning back now. This was no longer about research or diplomacy. It was about survival. The warship's systems activated one by one, and in an instant, the ship disappeared from all detection systems. It was as though it never existed. In the darkness of space, the warship moved like a shadow, unseen by the enemy. The vastness of the galaxy stretched out before it, a vast, empty canvas. The ship glided silently through the cosmos, its course set toward the alien planet, the very world where Thomas was being held captive. The mission was clear: rescue the child, strike back at the aliens, and show the galaxy what humanity was capable of. As the ship moved through space, the tension aboard was palpable. The crew of soldiers, scientists, and technicians, all experts in their fields, were ready for whatever lay ahead. They knew the stakes. They had witnessed the broadcast of Thomas' screams. They had heard the desperation in his voice. And now they were going to make sure that humanity would never again be looked down upon. The warship moved silently, its cloaking device keeping it hidden from the alien forces that had once thought themselves invincible. For the first time, the aliens had no idea what was coming. They had no way of detecting the silent, deadly force that was heading toward them. The ship was a ghost, a silent predator stalking its prey. As the warship neared the alien planet, the camera angle shifted, showing the immense beauty and danger of space. The ship passed through nebulae and star systems, its cloaking device allowing it to move undetected through the vast emptiness of the universe. Each moment was filled with anticipation, the crew knowing that at any second, the calm could be shattered. But it was more than just the ship's technology that made this mission so significant. It was what it represented. This wasn't just a military operation. It was humanity's statement to the universe. The aliens had thought they could break humanity. They had believed that they could hurt a child and get away with it. But they were wrong. Earth had shown its strength in the past. But now, it was about to show a power the galaxy had never seen before. The visual storytelling in this moment is as cinematic as it gets. The sleek warship, cloaked and moving through space like a shadow, is a perfect metaphor for humanity's quiet fury. It's as if the ship itself is an extension of the human will, silent, unseen, but deadly in its purpose. The stars and planets zoom by as the ship nears the alien world, each frame building the tension, each passing second adding to the feeling that something monumental is about to unfold. And then, just as the ship approaches the planet, the camera zooms out, showing the vastness of the alien world below. The tension reaches its peak, and the crew knows that they are about to make their move. The warship is poised and ready. Earth's first strike has begun. The universe would soon know the true power of humanity. The mission to rescue Thomas was no longer a distant plan. It was happening. Earth's elite forces had already set their course for the alien base, and the atmosphere aboard the cloaked warship was tense. The moment Earth's leadership decided to fight back, the best of the best were called upon. A group of soldiers known as the Phantom Battalion had been chosen to lead the operation. These soldiers were the best Earth had to offer, trained in covert operations, expert combat skills, and the art of stealth. They were humanity's last hope for saving the child, and they knew it. The soldiers gathered in the warship's command center, their expressions a mix of determination and grim resolve. Their mission was clear: infiltrate the alien base, find Thomas, and bring him back alive. They knew the risks. The aliens had already shown their cruelty, and they would not hesitate to fight back with everything they had. But the soldiers were ready. They had been through the most difficult and dangerous missions before, and they understood the stakes. This wasn't just about rescuing one child. It was about sending a message to the universe that humanity would not stand down, no matter the odds. The ship's AI, an advanced system designed for tactical operations, was fully integrated into the mission. It controlled every aspect of the warship, from navigation to weapon systems. It made sure every move was calculated and precise. The AI had been programmed to anticipate any threat, analyze the alien force's movements, and make decisions based on real-time data. In a mission like this, the AI was as important as the soldiers themselves. As the warship continued its journey, the soldiers went over the plan. They would first need to eliminate the alien defense systems surrounding the planet. Only then could they move in for the rescue. The ship's advanced cloaking technology had allowed them to remain undetected so far, but it would only hold for so long. Once they got close to the alien base, they would have to act fast. The first clash came sooner than expected. The warship had just entered the outer orbit of the alien planet when an unexpected fleet of enemy ships appeared out of nowhere. The cloaking device had failed. The alien forces had somehow detected them, and the space around them erupted into chaos. Despite the surprise attack, the human warship reacted swiftly. The AI took control of the ship's defense systems, and the soldiers prepared for battle. The alien ships were larger, heavily armed, and technologically advanced. However, the humans had one major advantage: stealth and tactics. Using their cloaking devices, they re-engaged their cloaked state, disappearing from enemy sensors once again. The human warship used its speed and maneuverability to its advantage. The AI calculated every move, making sure the ship could dodge incoming fire while launching counterattacks with precision. The battle was intense, but the humans' tactics outmatched the aliens. They were able to disable several of the alien ships before the enemy forces realized what was happening. The humans struck quickly, overwhelming the aliens with surprise attacks, making them scramble to defend themselves. The fight was over as quickly as it had begun. The humans had won their first battle. But the real challenge lay ahead, the alien base itself. The warship had breached the atmosphere, and the Phantom Battalion was preparing for their descent to the surface. The team was outfitted with the latest in combat technology, including personal cloaking devices that would allow them to remain hidden once they landed. They were ready for anything, but they knew that the hardest part was yet to come. As the warship touched down on the planet's surface, the soldiers disembarked and moved swiftly into position. The base loomed ahead of them, massive, fortified, and guarded by alien troops. The soldiers knew they had to move carefully. One wrong step, and the whole mission could fail. The soldiers infiltrated the base under the cover of darkness. The corridors were dimly lit, the air heavy with an ominous stillness. The Phantom Battalion moved with practiced precision, their cloaks blending seamlessly with the shadows. They were ghosts, moving through the corridors without a sound, their every step calculated to avoid detection. The enemy had no idea they were there, and the soldiers were determined to keep it that way. The tension was palpable as they crept deeper into the base. Every corner they turned could be their last. They moved in pairs, covering each other's backs, listening for the slightest sound that might give away the enemy's position. The soldiers knew that they couldn't afford to make a mistake. Their objective was simple: rescue Thomas, eliminate any alien threats in their way, and get out. As they made their way through the base, the first signs of resistance appeared. Alien guards patrolled the hallways, their footsteps echoing off the cold metal floors. The soldiers waited in the shadows, holding their breath. A moment later, the guards passed by, unaware of the danger lurking just inches from them. The soldiers' nerves were on edge. They had trained for this moment, but the reality was different. Every movement had to be perfect. One mistake, and everything would come crashing down. The stakes had never been higher. The tension only grew as they neared the central chamber where Thomas was being held. The sounds of the alien guards grew louder, and the soldiers knew that they were getting closer to their goal. But just as they were about to breach the final door, they were confronted by a squad of alien soldiers. The first shots rang out, and the once silent corridors erupted into chaos. The soldiers fought back with everything they had, their combat training taking over as they exchanged fire with the aliens. The battle was brutal. Close quarters combat in narrow hallways, the sound of weapons firing, the clash of metal on metal. It was a fight for survival. The soldiers knew they had no choice but to push forward. There was no turning back now. They fought with everything they had, using their advanced weapons and combat techniques to take down the alien forces. The robots that accompanied them joined the fray, their advanced combat skills turning the tide in favor of the humans. They cut through the alien soldiers like a hot knife through butter, their programming designed to adapt to every situation and eliminate the enemy with ruthless efficiency. But it wasn't just the combat that weighed heavily on the soldiers' minds. The fear of failure was real. They had trained for years, but nothing could prepare them for the emotional weight of this mission. The thought of losing Thomas haunted them as they fought. They had to succeed. They couldn't afford to fail. With every step they took, the tension grew. They were close, so close, but the fight wasn't over yet. They had to rescue the child and get out of the base alive. But with every moment, the odds stacked higher against them. In the midst of the chaos, one of the soldiers, a veteran of countless battles, found himself reflecting on the mission's true purpose. It wasn't just about the child. It was about humanity's place in the galaxy, about showing the universe that Earth wasn't weak, that they wouldn't be bullied or dominated by advanced alien forces. This mission was more than just a rescue. It was a statement. With the sound of the final alien guard falling, the soldiers breached the central chamber. There, in a dark cell, lay Thomas, battered and bruised, but alive. The soldiers quickly moved to his side, their relief palpable as they checked his vitals. He was shaken but conscious. The mission had been a success. The battle wasn't over, but humanity had proven that it would never be broken. The rescue mission had shown the galaxy that Earth had the power to fight back, and they would not back down. As the soldiers prepared to leave the base, the sense of accomplishment was undeniable. They had saved the child, but they had also sent a message. Earth's strength was not to be underestimated. And the war had only just begun. The mission had been grueling. The soldiers had fought their way through the alien base, navigating the perilous corridors, facing off against powerful foes, and enduring unbearable tension. But now, at last, they had found Thomas. He was alive, barely. His small body was bruised and battered, his face pale from the torment he had endured. His eyes, once filled with hope and innocence, now held a deep sadness. He had been tortured, starved, beaten, and left in isolation for what felt like an eternity. But he was still alive, and for the soldiers, that was the most important thing. The moment they found him was a mixture of relief and heartbreak. The sight of the child's broken form tugged at their hearts, especially for the soldier closest to him, Sergeant Lana. As she knelt beside him, her hand trembling, she could feel the weight of the mission's true cost. They had come for him, and they had succeeded, but the child had paid a terrible price. Thomas's eyes flickered as he looked up at her, and despite his exhaustion and pain, he reached out. His small hand grasped hers weakly, a silent plea for comfort, for reassurance. In that moment, all the soldiers could feel the weight of the world, the weight of their responsibility, their humanity, and the price of this war. There were no words, only the unspoken connection between them. "Don't worry, kid," Lana whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "We've got you now." But the moment of relief was short-lived. The soldiers knew that their mission was far from over. They had to escape. The base was massive, and time was running out. The alien forces were likely aware of their location, and the longer they stayed, the greater the risk of being overwhelmed. But they had one thing on their side: speed. With Thomas rescued, the soldiers moved quickly, ensuring he was safely carried out of the chamber. They made their way to the exit, where the cloaked warship waited for them. However, just as they were about to make their final escape, disaster struck. A booming explosion shook the ground beneath their feet. The base's alarms blared, and the sound of alien reinforcements echoing through the halls sent a chill down their spines. The aliens had discovered their presence, and they were coming in full force. The soldiers had no choice but to fight their way out. Captain Bonner, the leader of the Phantom Battalion, stepped forward, his face determined and calm. He had led them through countless battles, each more dangerous than the last, and now, in this final moment, he made the ultimate decision. "We don't have time for a full evacuation," he said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "I'll hold them off. You all get to the ship and get out of here." The soldiers froze. They had been through so much together, and the thought of losing Bonner was unbearable. Lana, her eyes filled with disbelief, stepped toward him. "Captain, you can't," she began, but Bonner raised his hand to stop her. "There's no time for discussion. We're not all making it out of here. This is the only way." His words hit like a punch to the gut. The captain had always been the rock of their team, the one who made the hard decisions and took responsibility for every life in his command. But now, faced with the inevitable, he had decided to sacrifice himself for the sake of the others, for the child. The other soldiers stood there torn. It was a decision that no one should have to make, and yet it had been made. Bonner had chosen to give everything to ensure their survival, to give the child a chance at life, and they couldn't argue with that. "Just make sure you get out of here. For me, for all of us," Bonner said, his voice thick with emotion. Lana nodded, unable to speak. She knew that nothing she said could change his mind. The reality of what was about to happen hit her all at once. They had lost comrades before, but none of them had made the ultimate sacrifice like this. Bonner wasn't just a soldier. He was a leader, a brother, and now he was giving everything for their survival. The camera lingered on Bonner's face as he turned toward the enemy, his hand tightening around his weapon. His eyes were filled with resolve, but there was also a deep sadness. He knew what he was about to do, and he knew the cost. But there was no hesitation. He was a soldier, and this was his duty. The soldiers made their way to the exit, their hearts heavy. They had to leave. They had no choice. As they moved through the corridors, the sounds of battle erupted behind them. Bonner was buying them time, holding off the alien forces long enough for them to escape. The explosions reverberated through the walls as he fought off wave after wave of attackers. The enemy's numbers were overwhelming, but Bonner's determination was unshakable. For a moment, there was a sense of surreal calm. The soldiers could hear the sounds of the battle behind them, but they couldn't look back. They had to keep moving forward, but in their hearts, they could feel the weight of Bonner's sacrifice. As they reached the warship, the engines roared to life, ready for takeoff. The cloaking device engaged, and the ship disappeared into the vastness of space, leaving the planet behind. But even as they soared through the galaxy, they could still hear the sounds of Bonner's final stand in their minds. The memory of his bravery, his selflessness, would haunt them forever. The escape was barely completed when the aliens launched their retaliation. The human warship barely avoided being hit by an incoming barrage of enemy fire. The aliens were relentless, determined to make sure no humans survived. It was a race against time. Humanity's soldiers fought with everything they had, but the aliens were closing in fast. The ship was damaged, and the atmosphere was tense as the crew did everything they could to stay alive. They were running out of options. On the alien homeworld, panic spread like wildfire. The alien commanders watched in shock as the message from Earth came through loud and clear. The once unshakable confidence they had in their superiority crumbled as they realized that their assumptions about humanity had been wrong. The humans were not the weak, primitive species they had believed them to be. No, the humans were something else entirely. The message was simple, clear, and terrifying. We are not to be trifled with. The alien leaders, who had once dismissed humanity as a small, insignificant species, were now faced with the terrifying reality of what the humans could do. Their fear was palpable. The camera cut to the alien commanders in their war room, their faces etched with disbelief. The mighty alien empire had just been forced to confront the fact that they were no longer the unquestioned rulers of the galaxy. Humanity, the underdog, had just revealed its true strength, and it was enough to make even the most powerful beings in the universe pause in terror. The scene was cinematic, with slow-motion shots of the alien commanders, their eyes wide with fear as they watched the destruction unfold. Their plans were unraveling before their eyes. The once confident leaders now found themselves on the defensive, their arrogance shattered by the realization that humanity had far surpassed their expectations. The camera focused on one commander, his face pale with shock, as he turned to his fellow officers. "This is not possible," he whispered. "They should not have this power." But it was too late. The damage had been done. Humanity had shown its strength, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As the camera cut back to Earth, the message was clear. Humanity had risen from the depths of despair to become a force that could not be ignored. The underdog humans, once seen as weak and insignificant, had proven that they could stand toe-to-toe with the most powerful alien empires in the universe. They had demonstrated their resolve, their courage, and their willingness to do whatever it took to protect their home and their future. The aliens had underestimated them, and now they would pay the price. Humanity was no longer a small, insignificant species. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would know their name. The news spread like wildfire across Earth, the people watching in awe as their leaders revealed the power they had kept hidden for so long. The world had come together in the face of adversity, and now, with the strength of the hypernova cannon, they had shown the universe that they would never back down. The underdog had risen, and there was no turning back. The aliens, now fully aware of humanity's strength, began to retreat. The fear that had gripped them spread through their ranks like wildfire. They realized that the human race was no longer something to be taken lightly. The galaxy was changing, and the balance of power was shifting. The human race had made its mark, and the alien empire was left to pick up the pieces of its shattered confidence. The final moments of the story were filled with tension and triumph. Humanity had revealed its true power, and the aliens had no choice but to retreat. The underdog had won, but the victory was bittersweet. The war was far from over, and the human race would have to continue fighting to ensure their survival. But for now, they stood victorious, having proven to the galaxy that they would never be underestimated again. In the aftermath, humanity's message was clear. They were not weak. They were not the helpless species the aliens had once thought them to be. They were powerful, determined, and ready to defend their home at any cost. The alien forces had learned their lesson, and they would never forget the strength of humanity's resolve. As the camera zoomed out, showing Earth from space, the words "humanity's power revealed" flashed across the screen, a testament to the bravery and resilience of the human race. The galaxy had witnessed their strength, and they would never forget it. Humanity had risen, and the universe would never be the same again. The galaxy held its breath as the last remnants of the alien empire gathered their forces for one final, desperate strike against Earth. The message was clear. Humanity had defeated them once, but they would not go down without trying to claim vengeance. The leaders of the alien empire, battered and humiliated, had come to a decision. They would launch a final attack to break the humans and restore their dominance. But they underestimated one crucial factor. Earth was ready. Earth's leaders knew that this moment would come. For weeks, they had prepared their forces, reinforcing the fleets, training the soldiers, and ensuring that their technology was ready for anything the aliens could throw at them. The memory of Captain Bonner's sacrifice weighed heavily on them, but it also fueled their determination. The message was clear. Humanity would not be intimidated. They had already shown their strength. Now, they would finish what they had started. The alien forces surged forward, their fleet massing in the depths of space, ready for a final showdown. They believed that this attack would be their chance to wipe humanity off the map, to prove that they were still the dominant force in the galaxy. But they could not have been more wrong. Humanity had learned from the past and had adapted in ways that the aliens could not have anticipated. In Earth's command center, the warships stood poised for battle, cloaked in silence, their advanced AI systems ready to lead the charge. The soldiers, those brave men and women who had fought so hard to protect Earth, stood united, their resolve unwavering. The battle would be fierce, but they were no longer the underdogs. They had proven their strength, and now they would defend their home with everything they had. As the alien fleet approached, Earth's forces made their move. The first wave of human warships emerged from their cloaking devices, their weapons primed and ready. The battle began with a massive explosion of energy as the two forces clashed in the cold vacuum of space. The aliens had the numbers, but the humans had the advantage of their technology and their cunning. The human fleet moved with precision, outmaneuvering the alien ships and striking with deadly force. The battle was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen, with lasers and energy blasts lighting up the darkness of space. The sound of metal crashing against metal, the hum of powerful engines, and the screams of battle rang through the communications channels. The human forces held strong, using their advanced tactics and weaponry to push the aliens back. On the ground, the soldiers faced their own battle. They had successfully completed their mission to rescue the child, but now, with the alien forces regrouping, they had one more task to finish. They had to ensure the aliens would never be able to retaliate again. The soldiers fought with everything they had, knowing that the future of Earth and its people depended on their victory. Inside the alien stronghold, soldiers fought in the dimly lit corridors, their combat skills honed to perfection. The close-quarters combat was intense, with each moment feeling like it could be their last. Yet despite the overwhelming odds, the humans pressed on, pushing the aliens back, inch by inch. The rescue of the child had been their first victory, but now, they were fighting for the survival of the entire human race. With the alien forces retreating, Earth's military leadership gave the order. It was time to bring this war to an end. The final confrontation had begun. As the human warships pressed forward, their weapons systems locked onto the alien flagship, the heart of their remaining fleet. A single decisive strike was all that was needed to cripple the alien forces and send them fleeing into the void. The camera cut to the battlefield, capturing the final moments of the intense space battle. Lasers streaked across the dark expanse, hitting alien ships and sending them into flames. The alien flagship, once thought to be invincible, began to crumble under the weight of the human onslaught. The humans had won. Against all odds, they had prevailed. The aftermath of the battle was both triumphant and tragic. The alien forces had been defeated, their fleet scattered, and their command shattered. But the cost of victory had been high. Many lives had been lost, and the scars of war would remain for a long time. Captain Bonner's sacrifice had not been in vain. His heroic actions had ensured that the mission succeeded, and humanity had won the day. But his loss was felt deeply by his comrades, who would never forget the price of victory. The child they had rescued became a symbol of humanity's resilience. This innocent life, saved from the alien forces, represented everything humanity had fought for. The child was not just a victim of the war. They were a reminder of why humanity had fought so hard to protect their own. The child's story, one of survival and hope, would be passed down for generations, a testament to the courage and strength of the human spirit. As the dust settled, Earth's leaders addressed the galaxy. The message was clear and unwavering. We are not invincible, but we will never again be underestimated. Mess with our people, and you'll face the wrath of humanity. The words were spoken with strength, with pride, and with a warning to anyone who might consider threatening Earth again. The camera zoomed in on the faces of Earth's leaders as they stood together, united in their resolve. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. They knew that the galaxy would never forget the power of humanity, that the alien empires would never again view Earth as a weak and insignificant planet. The human race had risen from the ashes of defeat, and now they stood tall, a force to be reckoned with. The final visual was one of victory and hope. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, rose from the darkness of space, a beacon of strength in a galaxy filled with uncertainty. The alien forces, once confident in their superiority, now retreated into the void, their empire shattered, their resolve broken. The humans had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As the camera pulled back, showing the Earth from space, the final words of the story echoed. Humanity had won. The underdog had triumphed, and the universe would never forget the power of Earth. The screen faded to black, leaving the audience with a sense of triumph, a sense of hope, and a reminder that no matter how small they might seem, humanity would always fight for their survival. The war was over. The peace had begun, and humanity had shown the galaxy that they would never be underestimated again.